Alrighty. It is 4 p.m. and we will call the September 24th Park Board to order, and we'll start with roll call.
Burns.
Here.
Sandy.
Here.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Shipe.
Here.
Miller.
Here. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Looks like we're going to add a new 8H for a special event application and an 8I for the approval of prizes for the 2024 Adult Pickleball Leagues.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion and a second on the amended agenda. Any questions, comments, or concerns? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Amended agenda approved. We'll move on to the consent calendar. Notice to the public that all matters listed are considered routine by the board and will be acted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the board votes on the motion to it be adopted by roll call.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Jesse, please call the roll.
Burns.
Yes.
Sandy.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Shipe.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes. And we'll move on to 6A, presentation by the YMCA, the 2024 Youth Recreation Program.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. YMCA, Mr. Riffle's here to present on the 2024 youth season.
Members of the Park Board, thank you for having me. I think this is our fourth year running the program and presenting, so it's always a pleasure to be here to share a lot of the highlights and successes that we've had throughout our summer program. Really, not much has changed, except that participation continues to grow. We continue to have more impact, which is what we all want. So just running through, I believe. Do you all have a copy, or?
Yes, it was in our packet. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to run through the highlights. But marketing and everything is very similar. We put ads in the Brainerd Dispatch, a lot of time on WJJY radio with all of the dates there, and then Facebook impressions. So things like that add up, and we're very cognizant about the partnership. So every time that I'm on the radio, you'll notice that I mention the partnership with the city of Brainerd, and also that the logo is on all of the program materials, the website and whatnot, recognizing that. So we are quite proud to be partners with you. I referenced that one thing that had changed is the participation, and this year we added more daytime programming. So if you go back to about 2021, we had about 342 participants in the summertime, and then this year we had 570. So that's pretty solid growth every year. And it seems that, it's going to keep growing. And our goal is to make sure that every kid has the opportunity to engage in a program, make it affordable, make it quality, something that we can all be proud of. Just reference quality, and we have a national survey that we use at the YMCA. So you can see a lot of those indicators, how we stack up against the national average. One of the ones that's really important is that parents report this, and they say that the sports program is making a real positive impact in their child's life, and 82% of the parents report that it does, and compared to the national average of about 42%. So you can look through a lot of these impact matrix and see that we overperform our peers nationally. New for 2024, we added fast pitch softball at Buffalo Hills Park. And we are going to, actually another benefit of this partnership is we run programs actually not just in the summertime, but throughout the winter and the fall as well. And we consider that just an extension, even though by contract it's summer program. But we see ourselves as, one of the core providers for the Brainerd sports for the kids in the community. So that kind of goes year round. On the last page, it's always interesting to see where the participants live. And on the pie chart, you'll notice that by and large, it's probably 55-60% are from that Brainerd zip code 56401, with others from the Baxter and other surrounding communities. I think that we hope that you will approve a continuation of the program, and we're going to propose that we operate on the same type of agreement that we did this year with a $20,000 request, and that we continue to grow, have more impact, and go again. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions for Shane at all? This year's program?
I have one.
Kara? Yeah.
Shane, where's the other? Because other seems to be kind of like a large little, do you know where that's, I mean, other?
There's about 6 different zip codes. I would guess, I couldn't tell you offhand,
Oh,
but
no worries.
just
You
small
tell me.
communities.
Yeah, I was just curious because there's already a lot of them that are represented,
Yeah.
so, but that's great.
Yeah.
Cool, great job.
I would guess about 10 different communities that have like just 1 or 2 participants from that zip code.
Very good. Dave?
So just a reminder to everybody as well that 56401 encompasses much more than just the city of Brainerd too. So we just got to make sure that we're being cleared on that that is not just the city of Brainerd, that goes all the way to Garrison.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Any other questions for Shane, comments? Andrew?
How did the fast pitch softball go? I didn't see participant numbers, but I figured probably wrapping up now, so I wasn't sure.
I don't have the specific numbers, but it's done well. That's a sport that we're seeing more and more participants. Also, volleyball is becoming more and more popular. As we look at new space in the future Y and some program space, volleyball is definitely something we're looking at. And I know that we do have, so our Chief Operating Officer, Jess Erickson, she spends a lot of time meeting with the different sports leagues. And we see ourselves as that recreational kind of introductory type program. And we're being very careful that we don't overlap with other programs. So Jess meets with their boards, making sure that we fill in the gaps and that we're that kind of entry program for others. And eventually, one of my goals is to bring, and I know the sports boosters would be a key part of this, but as we look at that progression through our high school sports program, that we're building the foundation for what the high school coaches want at that recreational level. So relationship, system, those types of things. So that's kind of where we're going. But yes, softball is something that we're going to be growing and expanding on. We hope to.
Awesome. Very cool. Any other questions for Shane? Comments, concerns? And a lot of the growth you said came from more of those daytime programs from 23 to 24.
Yes.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
I think
The
the four
T-ball, the
activities, yeah.
soccer, those were pretty consistent, a little bit higher than last year. But yeah, and that was something that, parents have different schedules. So offering different times of the day where they could participate was important. Also, we offer free lunches, so kids could grab a free lunch in conjunction with the sports program.
Very good.
Yeah.
I think that's it. No more questions? Very good. Well, appreciate you, Shane. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Appreciate you all.
And we will move on to 6B, the presentation by Community Education 2024 Youth Recreation Program.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. My name's Anne Marie Locker, and I'm the Community Ed Director for Brainerd Public Schools, and I have Tim Search with me today. He is our multiple hats within our department, but is coordinating our Parks and Rec program for Community Ed. So, and I apologize, I brought my sunglasses in instead of my reading glasses, so I might have a little bit of a hard time looking at my details here, but I believe this is also our 4th year now running some of the programming for Brainerd Parks and Rec. We have shared some participation reports and lots of other information with you that should all be in your packet. We had a pretty good year. We had a lot of transition this year. If you remember when I came and spoke last fall, Joe Polkamp, who'd been our longtime baseball coordinator, had retired. So Kyle Crocker was hired this year to take over that baseball program. So it was all new for him, new for Tim as well. baseball as he supported him from the community ed office. So as far as the baseball program, there was a lot of change. Softball, Corey was back to organize that program. And participation number wise, a lot of our, we saw increases in a lot of the areas. We still are struggling with some of those older kids. So both baseball and softball. We ended up not having a 12U fast pitch team. We only had, I think, 6 register for that. We were able to give them the option to go to the slow pitch program, the junior program, or a lot of them chose to play travel ball because that's part of the issue why our numbers are down is they're just choosing to play travel softball at that age. Similar issues with the baseball program, and I talked last year too about how the travel baseball league used to require their participants to also play on the Parks and Rec League, and they removed that requirement a couple of years ago. So numbers are down with the older kids, but if you look at the numbers with those younger groups, you can see there's still a need for this recreation level baseball. Kids that aren't traveling yet, or also kids who don't ever want to play on that travel team. They either doesn't work for their family to put in that much time. Maybe they don't feel like they're good enough and they just want to do it for fun, whatever reason that they aren't wanting to travel, but they're wanting to play. So this year with that oldest group of kids for baseball, we have the Pony League 13 to 15-year-olds. We only had enough kids for 2 teams, so we were kind of bummed about that, and we didn't want those kids to not have an opportunity to play at all. They've already probably decided they're not going to be on the traveling leagues if they haven't done it by then. There was probably a handful of those registered who were also on travel. But anyway, Kyle was able to, and our office was able to arrange with the communities of Aiken, Crosby, and Pillager to play against their teams. So we had a total of 5 teams in that league. The parent, we contacted the parents. I think we ended up having to change the night, but to make sure they were willing to take their child to those neighboring communities for their games, and it ended up working out great. Those kids got to play. They got to enjoy their summer.
For it coming together as late as it did.
Yeah.
It really went very smooth, and the feedback was really positive.
Yeah, and I think in the past, we have played with other communities, but it had been a while, like pre-COVID, so that was kind of, anyway, we were really glad to get that worked out. Yeah. I've also included on those participation reports some of our other Parks and Rec programming that we run. They're both fall and spring soccer and flag football. Those numbers have also grown. That's primarily a Baxter program, but it's open to all kids, and they're mostly after school, so we're getting kids that go to school at Forest View or whatever and participating, so they're kids from both communities. So I just wanted to share all those numbers with you, and from community ed side, we look at that Parks and Rec program as a whole program, not just, these are what we run for Baxter, these are what we run for Brainerd. So, and then there is a breakdown by city sport, and I did try to kind of map out, so you guys have a visual, because I know I do understand that, 56401 is not just the city of Brainerd, but this can kind of give you, we imported our addresses into this Google Maps just to kind of pinpoint. One thing interesting that we found, I cropped in on the city here for this graphic that I shared, but we actually had a relatively large handful of kids who came from Metro. And when you're asking Shane about the other, I'd be willing to bet that some of their other is Metro as well. And we even had one from somewhere in Arizona. And I'm guessing they summer up here, and the families are here for the summer, or maybe grandparents are hosting them for the summer and they're signing them up. So it's kind of interesting, but it does make for a nice number of kids participating in the program, so we can run some good programs. Anyway, I can't Anything else you can think of? Oh, I did also include the sponsorship list. That is kind of integral to funding our program. We do print a thank you that we put in our community ed guide, which is mailed out to everyone in Brainerd Public Schools area. So they see who those sponsors are.
Yeah.
You think of anything else? Or do you guys have any questions for us?
Any questions for Anne Marie or Tim on the community education program? Andrew?
Do you see the Pillager-Aiken kind of baseball partnership continuing in the future?
I hope so, yeah. I mean, I think all the groups involved had a positive experience, so, yeah.
I think it was Crosby that reached out to us, kind of in a similar situation where they only had a couple teams and pitched the idea, and we're like, yeah, let's make it work. And then they jumped in and Pillager jumped in. So as positive as it went, I wouldn't see any reason not to continue it from everybody's perspective.
Yeah.
Very good. Any more questions or comments? Marie or Tim? Alrighty. Well, thank you guys so
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to 8A, new business approval of the event application for dangerously thrilling decibels. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the applicant is also here to discuss the event. It attaches the event application to be held on Thursday on Halloween in Gregory Park. The applicant is looking to have the event take place from 3 to 8 within the pavilion and bandstand, consisting of Halloween decorations, music, handing out goodie bags. What they're looking to do is begin setting up at 5 o'clock, which is prior to the normal park hours of City Code of 6 a.m. But with your approval, this would allow them to begin setting up ahead of time. And they're also requesting access to the power within the kitchenette, the warming house, and the bottom of the bandstand. Obviously, the power sources for speakers, subs, the fog machines. So there's a few different requests that are included in the event application. One is the allowance to set up beginning at 5. Another one is vehicle access to set up the decorations and the sound. And another is to request that the facility rental fees be waived. I did include that the rental fees are $75 per day. We do recommend approval of the event application with the following conditions. One, the approval includes the 5 a.m. Start time for setup, that there is no vehicle access allowed, that we do have the carts that are provided, and that the rental fees are not waived for this. But we are open to park action on what the approval and conditions would be.
Very good. Thank you, Jesse. Questions, comments, or concerns on the application itself, since we have our applier in front of us?
I have one question.
Judy.
It's the 4th year of this event, right?
Yes, correct.
Where was the event held at previously?
Okay, so first year it was held in Gregory Park. I had teamed up with the Smiles for Jake movement, and we had it there for the first year. The last 2 years, it was right across from Essentia Health. But the issue with that is the people inside the hospital had some noise complaints, along with the guy directly across the street. So that's why we wanted to move it back to Gregory Park, because with it being such a big park, there's a lot more space, and the houses aren't as close. So then it kind of helps with those noise complaints, because the first year we didn't have any noise complaints, so I figured bring it back there, and that would help with that issue.
Any further comments or questions for our presenter? Okay, Kara.
Do we have any other events in there? I don't remember any other events in Gregory Park on that date?
On Halloween?
Yep.
Not right now. And we made sure to reserve the facility just in the event that this be approved.
I have another question.
Okay.
What is your, you must love Halloween, or what is your drive for doing this?
Okay, so yeah, Halloween's my #1 holiday. My drive is, I live outside of town. I always have. Like when I lived for the past up until I was 21, so a couple years ago, I lived all the way up by Merrifield, no trick-or-treaters there. So I was like, well, how can I, take my Halloween passion and make it something that the community can enjoy too? And that's kind of where it came from. I was like, well, I could bring it into the city, I used to have a DJ business, so that's where all the sound equipment already came from. And then the Halloween decorations, I just buy more and more every year, like most Halloween people. And then I just set them up and try to keep it new and, not repeat stuff so that every year it's a new event in its own way. So that's kind of where it comes from is, me not having access, so I brought it into the city so everyone could enjoy it.
Yeah, good neighborhood to choose.
Yeah, I agree. Any further comments or questions for the presenter? Dave?
I just want to say that I love it. Actually, the last couple of years over at the hospital, it was a nice location. I'm sorry to hear that didn't work out.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like a good little spot. But Gregory Park is a sweet spot as well. I read on here something about a giant fog machine. How big we talking here?
Well, they're the ones I've used the past 3 years. So, but it's 5 of the
Let's go
biggest
5.
ones I can buy.
Bigger the better.
Yeah.
Bigger the better, I say. But as a resident of North Brainerd, I just want to say thank you that it's a great addition. It adds a lot of ambiance to the entire neighborhood. And you know as well as I do that there's a lot of kids out there during Halloween, and they're not all just Brainerd residents. People come from all around to hang out there. So I think it's a great event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Definitely appreciate it. All right, any other questions for our presenter? All right, thank you so much
Thank you.
for everything. And then discussion on the action from staff. Approval, 9 a.m., not really, or 5 a.m., not a big deal, but vehicle access, of course, been a hot topic, so still gonna have to say no on vehicle access, even though folks have been doing it. We'll stick with the carts. And then rental fees, again, back to the policy of just not waiving rental fees. But any comments or questions or concerns about staff's direction? Andrew?
Do we think we have enough carts? How many, speakers and subs and,
I have my own carts. The issue is just how long it takes, with the amount of stuff I set up. That distance difference between being on the outside or being right where my setup is and everything, it's the difference between me getting 20 more things set up or less. So it just makes a big time difference because I'm a one-man show. So as it is, that's why it's the 5 a.m. setup, because it takes me every second to set everything.
That's what I look to. It's like 3 p.m. start time, but you're starting to set up at 5 a.m. That's
impressive.
That is a process. So,
Takedown too.
Right.
The last 2 years when it was at Essentia Health, where I could back right in and was literally 20 feet from where my main stuff was. Even then, takedown probably took me 7-8 hours.
Thoughts from the board?
Is it possible I could remove the vehicle when the event starts?
Why don't you come up to
Yeah, if you want to come up to the mic again and, yep.
Just asking if it's possible that I could remove my vehicle and trailer before that 3 o'clock start time.
I feel like my concern is certainly pulling it in at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Right, it's dark.
Yeah.
I would hope nobody's in the park, but
Yeah.
it would be hard to see, right? Especially if you're backing up around the
Sure.
obstacles and the trees and stuff. And then similar at night, right? 10, 11. I would expect there's more kids out. Again,
Yeah.
It's hard to see. So that does make me nervous. I don't know.
I really do want to let you do it, honestly, just because you are a one-man show and this is such a great thing and would save you, such a good amenity for the community at this time. But we already had issues with vehicles in the park on the last event that took place there. So I just can't, I can't say yeah. I mean, we have to just kind of blanket say no on a lot of this stuff and stay consistent with it. Andrew?
Jesse, is there a possibility to coordinate with the PD to have somebody make sure the path would be clear? I know that's like super early and also pretty late.
Well, at that time, there shouldn't be anybody in the park. It is before normal park hours. So at that point, there shouldn't be anybody within the park. So are you talking about from a pedestrian standpoint, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, there shouldn't be anybody in that park. So if it's a matter of reaching out to PD, I can reach out and see if they want to just verify if that's the case. I can't commit any resources from them, but I can reach out. But I would anticipate at 5 a.m. that there is not anybody in there.
Yeah, I would certainly hope to. But
Yeah, thoughts from you guys on this one? Yeah,
I kind of agree. We've had issues with it.
it's just one of those things where, you know, again, we just have to say no on this one and just continue that kind of policy. Like I said, I really appreciate everything, and I really wish we could make it easier for you, but I just, you know, like we've had too many problems. It's one of those things we've been battling for the 2 years I've been on this board, and so we haven't even approved people to drive onto the park, and they still do it. So allowing people to really just completely contradicts everything that we've been trying to do. But you know, like I said, I wish there was a better solution than going in to the park itself. But
I would make a motion to approve it as written with the conditions. 5 a.m. start time is okay. The vehicle access is prohibited and rental fee does not get waived.
I would second that.
motion and a second. Any discussion about the motion? Comments, questions? Andrew?
we've had some donors for Friends of Gregory Park who would like to make an impact, and so let's talk about the fee. I think we'd like to cover that separate from the board, but I think what you're doing is awesome. And other hat, we'd like to cover that. So
Okay, thank you so much.
park-wise, yeah, I think we want to waive that.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, there's plenty of money out there to rent facilities. So, yeah, so I guess any other further comments on the motion? All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Well, you've got an event application approved, so, and then you guys can sync up on
Yep,
the.
I'll get
the
your info
waves.
from Jesse.
But again, thank you so much. Seriously,
course.
For,
Thank you,
for
guys.
doing this. This is a great program, so. All right, moving on to 8B, the approval of the recreation specialist job description and recommend council authorize advertisement. Jesse? Or Chris?
Actually, it'll be Chris.
Very good.
Good afternoon, Park Board members. Recreation Specialist Haley Blank submitted her resignation effective September 16th. Before we had hired Haley last year, we had the council ask that the Park Board look at the job description and make a recommendation as far as which classification we should be hiring. At that point, the Park Board had recommended that we hire a recreation specialist, and that's what we did. In your packet is the job description for both the recreation specialist as well as the recreation coordinator position. That was the position that you had had before Haley was hired. At this point, staff is recommending that you approve the job description for the recreation specialist position. We do not have any changes to it. And then also recommend to the city council authority to hire for this position to backfill it.
Thank you, Chris. Comments, questions, or concerns on the recreation specialist job description? No. Do we feel like we needed a coordinator? Did we need something a little bit more, less, or maybe less entry level? Do we feel? Or
So included in this year's budget is a recreation specialist. My suggestion anyways is to try that position first, see how your applicant pool is, and then you can always look at it and see if there may be a need to look at some advanced positions from there.
excellent. Andrew?
It's maybe not about the description, I guess. So we had a toxic environment where Haley did not feel safe. do we think hiring somebody else into the same environment is going to lead to the same result? Like, I guess that's my concern is Haley came in and did an amazing job, and it turned into a toxic, unsafe cesspool for her. Like, what can we do to change that before we just throw somebody else to the wolves? Sorry, I'm a little fired up because this is really frustrating.
It's tough. I can't talk too much about the motivations behind the letter. Obviously, the letter is what's in the letter. I can tell you that we feel very confident that the workplace that we provide is going to be a safe and a welcoming work environment for anybody. And I've strived very hard to try and provide that, at least in our department. And I will continue to do so as long as I'm trying to lead it and do what we can from that perspective. And I think we've had some pretty good support from not only just folks here at staff at City Hall, but as well as some of the participants in our recreation programs. We saw that at the postseason meeting. There are some pretty good supportive folks out there too that want to see the recreation specialists succeed. Obviously, it makes their program succeed too. So I think there's a lot of very supportive folks there too. So I don't anticipate that there is going to be an issue long term.
Yeah, and I was not trying to criticize you, Jesse. I don't think you were the cause of this, but I did see on the Blast Facebook page, there was a post saying Haley's gone and there were 10 likes. So I know that meeting went well, but also I see that and I'm like, does that group actually want her to succeed? And then I see some of Katie's posts talking about how if she were in this job, she would be doing it differently. And I don't think that's helping. And I know we can't control what's on Facebook. I'm just really worried that we're going to hire somebody else in and it's going to be a repeat, especially with the softball group.
All right, so my thoughts on that are, we're in a government public type employment. We're going to be subject to the public, so that person that comes into that position needs to be aware of that and accept that responsibility. And I would think that when they accept the job, they would know that. Too, I don't want to get too far into it, but from things that I've read based on the meeting versus the resignation, I feel like there's a lot more contradictory items that don't need to be discussed any further. I think we need to stop looking in the past, look forward, find the right person. And that's, maybe it takes time, but instead of looking in the past and what if something was different, we need to look forward. I think a recreation specialist is probably what's needed.
Dave, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say, having been involved in the conversations that happened surrounding the blast or the communications, I think the city handled that very well. I think, it's unfortunate that that's the way that Facebook works and how social media works, but when it became clear that it was no longer something the city needed to be involved with, we acted very quickly and appropriately. Whether or not that led to this or not, I'm sure there's definitely some overlap for sure. But in some of the conversations we had with the softball players, there's just a lot of frustration. And I think we need to do a better job of running a program that is accessible and is, I would say, more of a front so that people have a firsthand experience with us, that we have a front of house presence there, and I think that's what was lacking, which led to a lot of the comments that were happening. So I think it's unfortunate that stuff happened, but the Facebook stuff, I think, is the Facebook stuff. I think the city handled that very well. I think that whether or not that's a cause and leading to this, I think that now has been completely removed. And so the city's just not participating in that part of it anymore. So, which is, again, it's unfortunate, but I think we removed the piece that would be your biggest concern, so.
Kara.
So moving forward and hiring a new recreation specialist, what would be the plan for like HR and the city to help them, like who's going to train them? Just so that we don't have the same kind of thing that happens. It might be easy to get sucked into just the softball world, like not to talk about the past, but like that has happened in the past. Haley was able to she was starting to be able to balance the two until she kind of was like pulled back in. So just so we set ourselves up for success with this new person, is there a plan for that for you guys? And maybe you haven't thought that far ahead.
I can speak a little bit to that. So it's a little bit tough because we're got a couple steps ahead here. It's tough to know. Let's just say hiring the person, we don't know what their background is going to be and what their experience is going to be. My experience is not in recreation programming by any means. And what I've always expressed, even with Haley, is using her networks, especially with folks that are much more experienced in that. Obviously, we have a lot of folks out there that are participating in our programs that have experience, but there's also a lot of other programs out there. So we have a lot of different networking opportunities that person can leverage into if they don't already have a lot of that experience. What we can provide, at least in my perspective, is kind of our perspective from the local side of what our experiences are with our programs. And what's benefited us a lot better in this last year is the amount of documentation and the things that we've really done a much better job of writing down, especially when it came to like the postseason meeting. Taking all those notes of things that we learned, things that we've seen, and how can we do things better. I think that's going to set us up much better, not only for next season, but many seasons beyond that, of what are the things that we are hearing from those folks and where are their most biggest concerns. So that way we can address those, and that person's probably going to be set up a lot more set up for success by knowing what those key points are going to be and being able to address them quickly rather than be surprised at, a month in. So I think we've done a much better job of documenting a lot of that stuff so we can be more prepared for it.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments, or concerns on the, sorry, Chris, I apologize.
So just a side comment to that, Jesse's talked about what we plan on doing next year. In the short term, we've had City Hall staff really kick in to try to help as much as we can. Last year, Haley came in and she had no idea on a lot of things. At least we have some City Hall staff that are working on tournaments right now, working on the concession stuff, working on reservations. So hopefully that will make it a little bit easier for the new person coming in as well.
Very good. Dave.
Can I just make one comment on the actual description itself? I'm just not a huge fan of education requirements in 2024. I just think the world has changed, and as a person that has two kids, one at the U of M and one about ready to move into college, it's just difficult as a parent to tell your kids jump right into college, and so. Education to me at this point is becoming a completely different thing. You can learn a lot without being at a university. So I just will speak up against education requirements in most of our descriptions at this point. Except for licenses. We should have licenses.
Andrew, did you have a comment?
Yes, actually two now that I'm reading. The first one is probably a very minor thing. It says the person must possess the following certifications upon date of hire. Department required concussion training. That reads like they have to be here to take the training, but they have to have it before they start. Am I reading that wrong?
Yeah, the way it's written is that they should have that before they're on board and going. Correct. The way it's written.
But there's no way for them. The way I'm reading that is there's no way for them to acquire that certification before they start.
We would coordinate it with them. It would be part of their onboarding package to let them know this is needed. And so that we would provide that opportunity for them to do that, either right before they start or maybe on the date of hire. But at least they would have the opportunity, from what I'm understanding, that isn't like it's a long course or anything like that, so.
No concussions on day one.
Yeah. And the same with the first aid.
Cool. Sorry, just reading way too much into that one. The second question, Jesse, I know long-term you're moving to city engineer role, I think, is what I've read at the council. Is the timeline on that such that whoever fills in public works director would be a better fit to make this hire, or is that like so far off that we shouldn't worry because we really need somebody in right away?
We do need somebody in that role because as the position is a pretty cyclical position, we're already going to be moving into getting ready for our winter season. So that's prepping for our winter sports, starting the hiring process for our warming house attendants. So it's starting that prep season and then obviously recapping our 2024 season. And then as soon as we basically start the winter season, you're also already prepping the next summer softball season. So it really, the winter is a little bit slower than obviously the summer season, but you're not really not doing anything. You can't just not have that position in place. You have to already start prepping for the next year.
Cool.
Yep.
Chris, do you recall how many applicants there was roughly a year ago for this position? Ballpark even?
I'm sorry, I cannot, off the top of my head.
Jesse.
Maybe you know, Jesse?
I believe it was over 24. If I remember correctly, it was probably about 24.
As I'm looking at this experience in education, I just feel like it's upon day to hire could turn off someone, or it could prevent someone who is very qualified or could be a really good person. But if they don't meet those requirements, they're going to be dropped down in their score. I would rather, instead of it seeing upon date of hire, the concussion program is going to be provided by the city, I assume. The way it's read right now, it's going to be someone that's in that role in another city, or potentially like a state high school league official, or really one of the only ones, or a high school coach that has concussion training. I just would rather see it say, maybe within 14 days of hire. Give them a deadline so they know that that's something that is going to be provided for them. That's my thought, and I agree with Dave that I don't know that this position needs, an entry-level position needs to have a 4-year college degree to be a recreation specialist.
Jesse, yep.
So if I can clarify, so this does not have a degree requirement. It's 3 years of college courses or 3 years of field experience, or a combination of both. The degree, 4-year degree is desired. The recreation coordinator does require a degree, so that one is a step up. Obviously, there's an increase in salary because of that extra requirement of the degree. The specialist is a step down. That one is kind of an either or.
Very good. Any other comments or concerns or questions on the specialist description? Alrighty. Anybody like, do we need a motion to authorize the job description, or? Yes, okay. We will be looking for a motion to authorize this job description and send it to council.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve this job description only, though, if we're changing the 14 days. Is that what you guys would want? Possess the following certifications within 14 days of hire? Is that what you guys are thinking?
I don't know that I have a specific date I need. I just don't like upon hire. I just don't like how it's written more so. I understand the premise behind it. I just don't like how it's presented to them. And I also don't like the college aspect of it, so I don't know that I would support it with a college degree.
It doesn't really say it's required to have a college. I mean, I guess when I read it, I didn't see it as that. It is highly desired.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, maybe degree is not the right word. I don't like the college aspect of it.
Well, it says, the second one says is desired, but the first one says graduation from an accredited 4-year college or university with major coursework, recreation, leisure studies, physical education, sports management. And that is under special requirements.
or equivalent combination of education and experience.
Not where I'm reading. I
As
mean, that-
determined by the public works director.
Yeah.
So you're still at the discretion of the hiree?
Down though,
What's
that's,
on the same bullet?
That's, yeah.
maybe I'm looking at the second one now.
So it's on page
I'm on the
47.
coordinator, excuse me, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm approving the recreation specialist as written, but we would like to change, possess the following certifications within 14 days of hire. Do you feel like that is manageable as a team? Yeah? Okay.
Yes, we provide that training, so we'll make sure and get that taken care of as soon as we can.
Okay. That's my,
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and the second. Comments, questions, or concerns on the motion itself? Like I said, yeah, it's just simply just a clarification of that particular education experience or special requirement. So, any other discussion? Mayor Dave?
I was going to speak against it again. I still just don't like the way that that's written, because it's a minimum of 3 years experience in recreation program field. That is eliminating a large portion of your potential field. Because that means if you haven't went to school for it or are not currently working in it, that removes a lot of people that I think could potentially do this position. And I'll speak for myself. I think this is a great position that I would love to do. I'm not going to do it. I'm the mayor, and it would require me to step down. I could not apply for this job. I don't have the background to do this job, and I think that I could handle this job. So that, to me, puts a large number of candidates in a pool that we could find someone with different experience to do something. And this is very specific. It says 3 years experience in the recreation programming field.
do you have a suggestion of how we could word that differently?
The main thing is minimum of 3 years. That's the main thing. Minimum of 3 years of experience in recreation programming field or equivalent of combination of the two.
Could we put it as a desired qualification instead of a minimum requirement or special requirement?
We're here to serve you, so if you want to change it to that, we can. Having some kind of qualifications in there, we have to score all of our applications. So if we receive 24 applications with the same criteria before, we've been getting some applications, sometimes close to 40, 50 employees, or applicants, I should say. So we're just trying to help people understand what we're looking for. It does say as determined by the Public Works Director as well. So if they look at someone's information and say, you know, I think that would work out, that's fine. If you want to reduce it, if you want to change it, you tell us what you would like to have this person have for requirements.
But with the term determination is after the combination of the two. So it still has a requirement, a minimum requirement of 3 years, either in the field or in college to have it. It's still there. The equivalent combination determined by the Public Works is an equivalent combination of those two things, which are very specific things.
How about if we did 3 years of experience in event coordination, management, or, I mean, we can also have the recreation and / recreation programming. I mean, we can, that would be some, like.
That's my biggest concern, is that this is very specific. This is very specific to you need to either be in college for it or have been doing the job previously for it, which I think is just wickedly specific for this particular job. I think there are other things that you could be good at that could make you a good candidate for this job that are not specifically in college for recreation or currently working in recreation.
Kara, what do you think about event or program management? Because that's like.
That's like basically what I said, yeah, just like better, yeah.
Oh, sorry. No,
Yeah,
We add like marketing in there. Like a lot of that job is marketing.
it is.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
I mean, a
So
marketing
event,
person.
marketing, and program management.
Love
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
event marketing.
Because
That's what I'm getting at, is there's other parts to this job that we were requiring them to do, that I think we could find somebody that's really good at another aspect of that job, and also maybe doesn't have the exact experience with running adult softball.
I mean, I look at this as the minimum requirements are, in an entry-level position should be a high school diploma or GED, and for this position, a valid driver's license. The rest of it, if we have the right person, we can train that person. We can get them the certifications they need, but ultimately, you're looking for like unteachables. You're looking for the right character, the right attitude, the right drive, the right energy, the talent, the passion, the mindset. You can't teach that stuff. Any entry-level position, you can teach anything else that you need if you have the right supervisor doing it, but you can't teach those unteachables. So I would put those as your minimum requirements, and then find that person by meeting them.
But because we don't have the recreation coordinator and we're having Jesse play 2 roles, we might not be able to have them be like super new, but I totally get what you're saying. But like if they're like brand new and have never planned an event before, and having their boss like kind of be not like the coordinator to just them, that may or may not work. But again, if they're teachable, yes. But it might be nice if they had a little bit of experience planning an event or marketing.
We do need to narrow the pool down a little bit for staff so they can make.
Yeah, but we're not hiring off of paper. We're going to interview, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to learn more off of an interview than we are on paper.
That is true.
That's true.
Other opinions are totally fine. I don't like too specific.
I like the program management, marketing, and leaving it kind of open-ended to that. Because I think you do need someone with a little bit of similar experience, not just coming in, not having planned a program before or an event.
Yeah, I mean, this is just simply to help staff be pointed in the right direction to hire the right person. So, just a general idea, again, when we crafted this last year, of what we thought this person would do for the department. And so, whatever adjustments or requirements or things like that we'd like to change and make not necessarily mandatory or have staff look under a microscope for, specifically, college degree or things of that nature, yeah, we can make those adjustments. We do have to give staff just at least point them in the right direction of what we're looking for. I think to your point, yes, we can have that candidate pool on an entry-level area, but what do we want to see out of these candidates when we're interviewing them, and what sort of skill sets do we want staff to take a little closer look at? Jesse?
One thing to note that this position does have some supervisory responsibilities over our seasonal temporary positions with warming house attendants, concession stand workers, umpires. So there is some supervisory responsibilities that goes with this position as well.
And some amount of hiring responsibility, correct? Yes. So,
Management experience.
Yeah.
That's what that sounds like to me.
yeah. So, and there are a few nuancy things that, again, we need staff looking at, in our vision for what this person would do, so.
So do we still want that 5th bullet, 1, 2, 3, like the graduation from an accredited 4-year college to be a highly desired, and we're only changing the 1st bullet?
I mean, it's still highly desired, I'd have to think. I mean, we still want somebody, yeah. We
Highly
would love to
desired
have
sounds
somebody
great.
with a 4-year degree apply for this job, but.
Again, my biggest concern is just that first bullet point is very specific. And I think it removes a lot of people that we could potentially look at and say, is this, given your background, what you've been doing, could you do this job? And I think there are a lot of people out there that could do this job that do not have specific parks management experience.
I do hear a lot of clicking and clacking over here, so maybe we have some semblance of a of a new, yeah.
You do have a motion right now.
Oh, we do currently have a motion, that's correct, yeah.
Remove my motion? Can I change it since I created it? I would like to amend my motion. Someone come up with the wording, please? Or can I?
I would say add a requirement for a high school diploma or GED equivalent, or whatever, Chris, that normally sounds like. Yeah, cool. And then change the first bullet to be marketing, program management, and event management experience or equivalent as determined by the Public Works Director is a highly desired qualification. So then, Jesse, you have some leeway of like, oh, they did something similar, and you're like, that totally fits with what this role would do. And then continue the idea from Kara's original motion about within 14 days of hire, those 2 certifications. That's what I got.
Yeah,
So you have to,
I have to say that, right?
you just have to say that you would like to amend your motion to that. And then he has to
Second his own motion.
second his original amended motion.
Do we have something fleshed out over here? That's.
I kind of like what we kind of came together. So 2 years of experience in, you kind of keep the same topics, right? Recreation and leisure, parks, coaching, sports management, event planning, marketing, or related field, or equivalent combination of experience, of education and experience as determined by the public works director.
Sure, so just kind of expanding the overall.
We can include supervisory in there.
Sure. Okay, so just kind of expanding what, where those particular experiences that we're looking for, or education, sure. Yeah, I think supervisory as a fine addition.
All right, I'd like to amend my motion to what Paul just said.
I approve the change as the seconder.
So we have a amended motion and a second on the amended motion. Do we have any other questions, comments, or concerns on the amended motion?
So that bullet point, just for clarity, what we came up with is 2 years of supervisory experience in recreation and leisure, parks, coaching, sports management, event planning, marketing, or related field, or equivalent combination of education and experience as determined by the public works director.
Very good. And then high school diploma or GED, and then clarification on the process, or possess the following certifications upon 17 days of hire. Or, sorry, 14, 17. Yeah, just so arbitrary, 17. You're like, yeah, you got 2 weeks and 3 days.
22 and a half.
Ooh, okay. Did you get that, Chris?
Any comments from staff on this?
That's why Chris doesn't like coming to Park.
What Jesse's asking me is, we have a wage grid system, and we are assigned points for education and experience. By reducing the amount of experience, does that impact the wage that should be paid for this position? Off the top of my head, it's a spreadsheet that we work on, and we would have to figure that out if the wage should be adjusted by changing it from 3 years to 2 years. So at this point,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not stuck
Okay.
on 2 either.
Yeah, I'm not either.
You could do 3 years if you.
3 is just totally fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to amend that?
I would like to amend my motion to say 3 years instead of 2 years.
okay.
The seconder, I approve the second amendment.
As approval of the second amended motion. I guess my question to staff, now that we've amended it a couple of times, do we feel with this feedback that we can still get a quality candidate? Again, I like not speaking to, do we need to add this or do we need to add that? Given these specific changes to the experience, do we feel like we can get a good candidate?
Yes, sir. I think we have plenty of a pool there.
Okay, very good. So we have an amended motion and a second to the amended motion. Any other discussion?
You want me to email that to you guys?
Perfect, thank you.
Very good.
Otherwise, I was going to listen to the tape, so either way works great. Thank you.
Very good. Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. New description for the specialist job. We'll move on to 8C, the 2025 campground host agreement. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have attached the request for the agreement for 2025 for the campground host agreement at Lum Park. Bill and Teresa were the hosts for this year as well as last year. They continue to do a fantastic job for us. They're very involved folks out there helping guide people as they get checked in over there at Lum Park, and especially with the growth that we're going to have with the expansion, it would be good to have them out there. So we're recommending to approve the 2025 agreement with Bill and Teresa again, as it presented.
Very good. Any comments, questions, or concerns on the host agreement? Dave?
I just want to say thank you to them.
Oh, yeah.
That it's been a great last couple of years, so I think it's went great.
Very good.
Got rid of the green camper.
I think
Camper.
people are saying great things.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns on the agreement?
I make a motion to approve the 2025 campground host agreement as written.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We have an agreement. 8D, approve change order number 1 for the Parks ARPA project. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have some price proposals for some changes to a couple items over at the Lum Park projects, one at the campground, one at the beach project. So the first one would be we'll go through the campground. So the first issue was we had 1¼ inch water main going through the campground. Come to find out that that's a rather uncommon size for water main. From the supplier, it would have been about a 10 to 12 week lead time for that material. By going up to a 1½ inch, this would allow us to get that material here in a relatively quick turnaround. Most of the issue is the fittings. This is also, in the long term, a lot more easier for us to source should we have issues with repairs. To be able to spend those funds in 2024, obviously that's something that we had to factor as well. Also, the hydrants weren't clarified very well in the plans. It did specify frost-free hydrant, but it didn't specify exactly the hydrant that we needed. So they bid a certain type of hydrant, but it really wouldn't fit what we needed out there. So in specifying and clarifying further, we do have an additional cost for what we need for hydrants for RV hookups. So there's some additional costs out there for the campground. So what that would be the, let me see where I'm looking at here. So the campground has about $8,654.36 for the change order for the campground. About $2,000 is for the water main, which is really the smaller the amount. The larger the amount is the hydrants, but obviously when you're multiplying it over several, it adds up pretty quick. So that one's over $6,000. The other change order here is the removal of the half block wall coming right out of Pavilion 1. We talked a little bit about this this last spring, as this was kind of I'll say priority number 1 of things to add to the Parks ARPA projects with some of the additional money that we had. So this was the price that they provided to us to remove that slab as well as that block wall. So that's $1,415. So with what we have available in our contingency as well as kind of leftover money beyond that, we do have plenty of available funds to fund both of these. So we are recommending approval of change order 1 as presented in the amount of $10,069.36.
Thank you, Jesse. Any questions, comments, or concerns on change order number 1? Yeah, that awkward concrete wall thing needs to go for sure, so.
Not gonna miss it.
Yeah, no. Weird.
I'll make a motion to approve this. Do I need to say more than that? I'll make a motion to approve the change order as presented in the amount of $10,069.36.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Change has been ordered. 8E, we're going to discuss the 2025 Parks Operating Budget Request. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So at the September 16th council meeting, the city council requested that staff kind of bring a discussion item to the park board to see if there's going to be some opportunities to find reductions in the operating budget increase. Right now we're showing an 18% increase over 2024's budget. So there's a few different spots that we kind of identified here. So I'm not going to read through all of them. I will mention that one thing that Personnel and Finance Chair Johnson did mention was, do we need the 2 additional temporary staff, temporary seasonal maintenance staff? I know we had mentioned that we had taken on the downtown district maintenance, and we did not accommodate for that, as well as the new park, and we didn't accommodate that with any additional staff. Each additional person is at using that $18 to $20 pay rate is about $9,000 in cost. If I remember correctly, that's roughly about 1% of our cost, our increase. not necessarily the levy increase, but the overall city levy increase, but every $10,000 is about 1% of the park board's increase. So that's about one of those folks. And again, as a reminder, half of one of those seasonal maintenance was planned to be assessed over to the downtown district as part of that maintenance of their. And again, I listed a few different other items that could potentially be areas of opportunity should the park board wish to go that direction, or any other areas where the park board would like to see any reductions, or if you'd like to see us go back with what is currently presented. We're looking for direction from the park board.
Very good. Thank you, Jesse. Any questions, comments for Jesse? We'll start with Dave.
Yeah, so just coming from the city side of things, our budget is too high. And so we're asking all departments to take a look at what we can remove. So this is not park related, this is citywide related. We are looking at roughly an 8% increase, and that's just not acceptable. So we've got to figure out what we can do to try and reduce some of this stuff. Some of that will come from the council as well. I've had a few conversations about things that we've had as initiatives, mine being tree replacement. So one of the things that I push for over the last handful of years is $25,000 to the parks, $25,000 to streets to look at tree replacement. That has been my initiative. That's $50,000. I would like to request to you guys that I may present that to the council as something that I would be interested in maybe seeing reduced. Maybe not completely removed, because I do think it's important that we're replacing these trees as they go. Otherwise, we're going to be a barren landscape in a handful of years. But as someone that has pushed for that and has been an advocate for it, I think it's important that we set a good example as well. So that is something that I myself would like to see reduced as an ask, not just from you, but from streets as well. And being the person that has been pushing for it, I'd like to just request that from you guys to begin with.
I think my most important thing here, Jesse, I mean, we need these folks, right? We need these temps for maintenance, right? Like, I mean, we've talked about this before, but we need the hands, right? I mean, we've got a lot of real estate out there. Oh, and it's not all getting taken care of to our standards, right?
So what I referenced to Chairman Johnson is it's up to the level of the standard that the park board and the city council wish to do. If you cut our staff down to 3 people, the 3 people will be busy for 40 hours. They won't look the same as if you have 8 to 10 people out maintaining the park. So it's really the level of standard that you wish. So if we only get 1 additional temp staff, if we get no additional temp staff, we'll make do with what we have and what we're allowed based on what budget we're provided. But what we're doing right now is the level of standard that we're able to maintain right now, because obviously those guys are working full tilt right now. But if we get an additional person, obviously that makes us be able to get to those parks a little bit faster and a little bit more often.
Very good. Paul?
So Jesse, if I'm reading the agenda request right, 133,000, is that just step and grade adjustments for the city's wage grid?
That's a majority of the personnel services increase is just full-timer wage increase. I mean, you have your labor contracts for maintenance, which is a large chunk of that, but also a factor of salary for not only my position or a portion of my position, but the recreation specialist is in there. A portion of the public works admin is in there. So all those different positions have increases planned in 2025 as well. So there's increases there, but there is some of the increases that are attributed to moving from the $14 to $16 pay rate of the temps to the $18 to $20 pay rate.
I guess what I'm getting at is that 133,000 is pretty much locked. What percentage of that is of the overall 18% increase, do you know? Just to kind of figure out how much we're working with as far as if you take personnel services out of the equation, because we have union contracts and we have wage grid on the side here, which the city has adopted and is following, what percentage is left over that we have to work with?
I can't say an exact number. I want to say it's somewhere in the realm of about 2/3, but I'd have to get clarification from Connie on that.
there's probably 6% remaining, so 2/3 of that is that 133,000? Or the 2/3 represents 133,000 of the 18.
Of the 133,000.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, as I presented to council too, I mean, a lot of our budget is wrapped up in personnel services and then the higher utility costs. I mean, from year over year, I mean, again, our request for capital is the same. But, you know, personnel services, like the cost of people is going up and the cost of utilities in general, water and electricity have gone up. And the usage of our parks is probably at a literal all-time high, now that folks are out and about again. So, you know, I'm not necessarily for the cutting of people. I mean, we need folks to maintain the system, and
Is it a good faith effort to reduce it by 1 to the city council and try to make some adjustment?
Anything that you can present back to the city will be greatly appreciated.
So I mean, the tree thing, and then, I mean, just as a good faith from our side, you know, that we're looking at ours and trying to be cognizant of.
maybe our half of an employee, right? Because we're talking about 1.5, right? One of those employees are half streets, half parks, right? As we were talking about before. They're split their time.
The half a person is dedicating, like, let's say, about 20 hours to downtown maintenance is the intent.
And
then
then the other 20 is
half of the salary is planned to be assessed. The other half is intended to be like parks maintenance. So it's not that we're hiring a half a person. It's just
no, for sure. But if we were to take away that 20 hours that we would realistically be allocating to that person, you know, in parks.
I don't know if we're gonna find a halftime person though.
Well, I don't think so either, but
So I think it's either one
we're done.
yeah, either remove the one specifically for parks and leave the downtown one alone, and have 20 hours of their time dedicated to downtown and 20 hours on parks.
Andrew?
Jesse, the downtown, like that wouldn't go into the budget, right? That comes out of that assessment? Or is that in our budget, but we know it cancels out later?
basically, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Kara?
So we've talked about concessions a few different times, right? And I know after this year, we were gonna get that report, that new system or the POS. So I don't know if we have that yet, and I don't know when we're presenting or when we have to have this change due, but looking at that, because that would go into that other areas here listed with concessions and seasonal employees. Because if there's spots that aren't making money, and then we know in the past that there's been food that's sitting and gone bad, or, you know, so knowing what that reporting is at the end of this season would be really helpful, I think. But then warming house attendance, I mean, and I don't know, but like, do we have to have attendance? I guess they open up the building, but like, is there a way that we could change it up this season? And I'm not sure what that looks like, but, you know, don't have as many warming house attendants, but still be able to have everyone skate. But how could we look at it like that? Because I don't want to see anything change with security cameras, or, you know, we finally just got those up and now we're not going to like pay that, or I'm just trying to look at the options in the list here. Something else with the water shut off, I remember Paul had mentioned that at a meeting a few weeks ago with the, you know, getting something that turns off the splash pad. I know that didn't we talk about that, Paul? Like something
You
where
can
the
turn
water.
it down, I think.
Yeah, maybe not as much water. I don't know if anything ever came of that. I get it. It wouldn't affect, we couldn't see the change this year, but we could also say like, we're putting this new device on our splash pad, so the power, not using as much water, but.
So I can quick clarify the utility piece. We do get reimbursed equally for our utilities. So utility cost doesn't really affect the increase overall on the utility cost or the operating cost, because whatever we're paying on utilities, we do receive on the revenue side as well.
Okay, but it would still be helpful to show that we're trying to save water. Okay, I guess that's it.
JD?
Our lease vehicles, we're more than doubling our lease vehicle expenses. What vehicles, like how many vehicles are we looking at replacing this year going on to the lease program? Are those vehicles actually in need of replacement, or is that something that we could cut costs and not replace as many vehicles this year? Because it's $6,700 a month in vehicles, and coming from the automotive world, I know that that's an awful lot of lease payments a month.
So I know 2 were moved. So there was a chunk of time there a couple years ago where we weren't able to get any lease vehicles. So we're still trying to essentially catch up. The intention is that everything within 5 years is, the direction from the council was that we, under this program, all of the vehicles after 5 years are sold and replaced under the lease program. For a few years there, we were having issues getting caught up because we weren't receiving any vehicles. We are starting to see those vehicles come through now. Last year, we were able to replace 2 of them. We are almost caught up now. I believe there's 1 planned for next year. We've had discussions of that exact discussion. Is it a necessary to be replaced? That is a discussion that necessarily has to happen with also the council. Is right now the council is moving on with this program, and this is the direction with using this program, is replacing the vehicles on the lease program. But if they want to make a change, that is something that we want to have the council make a direction of making that change before we as staff make that change. But it is something that we are going to start exploring as our vehicle and making sure that all of our vehicles and making sure that those are appropriately cited. But we as staff don't want to deviate from that direction yet.
Are we doing a one-time lease payment for a $47,000 increase then if there's only 1 vehicle going for the Parks Department?
So the increase on the lease programs is really us getting caught up to what hadn't been budgeted before. Again, there was 2 that were received last year that we were anticipating, and then with the 1 next year. So we're just getting caught up a little bit. So there was a big chunk of increase in these programs that, again, we're getting caught up a lot like the utility ones. We weren't anticipating such a huge increase in the water bill as well as the Lyman P. White Park. So that it's just us getting caught up on those budget pieces that we just didn't
If I'm going to
anticipate.
make a recommendation, I'm going to recommend that we don't do a vehicle then in 2025. I know the council says that they want that, but if we need to cut costs for the council, then we're going to have to start cutting somewhere. 'Cause like Paul said, we can't cut personnel. That 133,000, I think it's actually 139 on the sheet I'm looking at. That's fixed. If we need to cut costs somewhere, we're going to have to start cutting things that they may want.
Liaison to the council, any insight on the lease program or?
I'm just having a hard time understanding 47,000. I don't.
So lease program is something that we do throughout the entire city now, so that essentially what we're doing is instead of having 1 large payment for a vehicle, and really it's the way we do it with fire trucks, right? You got $1 million fire truck, we can't be budgeting 1 year for $1 million. It just doesn't work. It's too much ups and downs. So this has been something that's been going on for what, 8 years maybe? I think 8 years about how long we've been doing the lease program. But we gotta be
It was
pretty close.
pushing
It's pretty
5 when I
close.
left.
Yeah, it's
so
getting
it
pretty,
makes sense.
it's getting pretty
I
close.
love the lease idea. I'm just having a hard time wrapping my head around a $47,000 increase.
Yeah, Parks is an interesting one though, because it's all gonna depend. I mean, moving the vehicles over versus maintaining that on the lease. The goal is to eventually get it to where we're just leasing vehicles, and then that way we just have a steady cost on them. So, I mean, that's the decision from this group is the vehicles that you have work. Because if they're already in the lease program, they're already in the lease program. And that's the goal, is to not have this type of increase, so.
These are vehicles that are currently owned by the city that are going to the lease program and thus the increased cost?
Some of it is catch up. So, like I said, we had 2 of them that got replaced last year that weren't reflected. And I believe there was another one that didn't get reflected, and we're getting caught up on that. So there's just some of that catch up. And then we have one in 2025 that's planned.
So they were budgeted for in a previous year. We didn't see that cost because the vehicle wasn't delivered. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think we anticipated receiving it.
And maybe I'm overthinking it, but if they arrived in 2024, we should just have the minimal payments moving forward, right? I mean, how many vehicles do we have in our department?
You'd have to give him a minute. We have quite a handful of the ones that are on the lease program between, we have different plow vehicles and sorts and different vehicles like that. It is a large increase, but if we would have had it budgeted appropriately, it would have been a little bit more of a steadier increase from 23 to 24 to 25. Again, that was us getting ourselves caught up appropriately to the right number.
Yeah, and that's
We
when I'm
had-
looking at cutting something, I'm looking at what's our largest increases and why are they and what can be cut from those? Because if we go through and cut $70 here, $300 there, we're not going to make any substantial difference.
What I'll say is that 2024, we did go over on that budget because we didn't anticipate
Okay.
the 2024 appropriately.
So the
again,
24
some of
number
this
that
is
I'm looking at is not accurate.
correct.
That's why it's such a large increase.
Correct.
Do we think that the proposed cut of, the little bit of Mills Field and maybe one seasonal position is going to be enough for the council? Is it going to be enough for the taxpayers? I mean, if we only cut 10, 20,000 from our budget, 1%, is that enough?
I mean, if every department hypothetically cuts $20,000, that's a sizable decrease from the city's budget. But you are absolutely correct. We heard loud and clear from the public that 8% increase is not something they're interested in. And, we are the highest right now currently of any of the surrounding communities. So, or at least our comparable communities. So we just need to be aware of that. Yeah, I mean, anything is a positive, I think, at this point, is what the council's looking at, is just, and again, it's not directed specifically at parks, it's directed at the
Yeah,
process.
I get that. I just want to make sure that all of us do our fair share.
Yeah. And I think this is good. This is what they're looking for. They're looking for us to dive into the numbers and make sure that when we're then turning to the public, we can say, look, here's the things that we were able to shave off of there. And that's because we got deeper into the numbers. And that's what the council's looking for, so.
Jesse, is that 2025 vehicle ordered already?
So the ideas I think we've heard so far, it's probably the one FTE dedicated to parks, some amount of trees, like 10 or 15,000, and then some reduction for the Mills Field striping. Because that went up 10.
Yep.
So that would give us, if we say 5 for Mills Field, 15 for trees, FTE was 9. 29.
What about getting rid of the one bench? I don't know. I know you said getting rid of small things, but what was the bench thing? Bench installation, I mean, I don't know if we have one planned, but aren't they usually donated anyway? So, I mean, that's $5,000. That would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're usually, and I feel like we have a lot of benches.
Yeah, and we
Do have a lot of benches.
And we've tried to be clear with people now that
Yeah,
bench donation means life of bench.
right.
Doesn't mean in perpetuity.
So that's another 5, because I don't think we should, yeah. The other stuff, we need signs, security cameras. Yeah.
I think the council would definitely support this.
34 feels like a good start.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, next year can be a little bit more, once we have a little bit better understanding of our concession plus minus, or maybe, again, following that program and trying to generate revenue for the system gives us a little bit more wiggle room on hiring FTEs and other things like that, because the system itself is generating enough money to do it.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is we need to make sure we're doing a better job of making sure that our budget to our actual is more accurate. If we're getting hit right now with lease, that's the whole point of the lease program, is to not get hit. It's literally the entire point. So we just got to be better at making sure that our budget is closer to our actual.
Very good.
Move to reduce the Mills Field maintenance by 5,000, remove 15,000 from the trees replacement, eliminate our ask for the full FTE for parks, and then zero out the 5,000 for the bench installation program.
We have a motion.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. Hearing.
Yeah, one more time. It was
5,000 from Mills Field, so it'd be down to
10,000.
10 from 15. Remove 15 of the 25 for trees. Remove the one full FTE for parks, and then remove 5,000 from the bench installation program, which would put that at zero.
Any other discussion on the motion? And any clarification needed from staff? Jesse?
If I remember correctly, the bench installation program was more intended for benches along trail, not memorial benches, but benches along like the Spurline Trail, for instance, not necessarily for the memorial bench. Those are ones we charge specifically to those folks that are installing those. We do have a handful that we have installed this year, but beyond that, we can not obviously install any more, provided the budget is zero.
Thank you for that clarification, Jesse. Actually, very important in this discussion.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because I mean,
Support it,
yeah,
but
very
it
good.
is- I was thinking the opposite, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. Any further discussion on the motion? All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We have made some cuts. Moving on to 8F, the information on the Rice Lake weed treatment. Jesse?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I've included a few different proposals and information from a couple of different vendors. This came up as former Park Board member Troy Rushmeyer presented at the public forum regarding some of the concerns that he had regarding the aquatic weeds that were in the beach area as well as kind of by the fishing pier. So staff kind of did some research, met with a couple of folks out there just to get some idea of what the process was, how to address this, because it's not something that I'm very familiar with myself. So it was kind of a learning process for me. And so I had both dive guys as well as I think it was Waterfront Restoration kind of take a look and visit this and provide their recommendations of what to do and how to better address this. And both of them have very similar recommendations. You can do a single treatment, but both of them are recommending kind of I'd say a multi-treatment throughout the year to address as the weeds grow throughout the year. Really, it seems like it kind of falls within whatever you're kind of looking for from much like we talked about with maintenance, kind of a level of service or level of quality. But I did include the proposals that we did request from them, so you can review that and get that information kind of wrapped around you to get your head wrapped, understanding kind of what that process looks like. What the scope of work would be, what they're proposing to do. I did have Dive Guys, one of their recommendations is not just to do the area within the fishing pier and in the beach proper, which is what we had originally chatted about with scoping this, but potentially going kind of beyond the fishing pier, out more waterward, if you're looking at helping those folks that are using the fishing pier for fishing out the end. And then as well as towards the boat launch area, just because of the potential for that to carry from, I'd say, the west side of the fishing pier into the beach area. There is that possibility as well. So there was some recommendation to look at those as potential treatment areas as well. So those are included in the proposal as well. I did indicate to both that we're kind of beyond the budgeting process at this point, but I did ask for some numbers so that we can start wrapping our heads around what those kinds of numbers do look like. Understand that if it's a future year that the numbers may be different, but if this is something that you want to explore for future budget years, that is something that you could potentially include as we look at maybe springtime as part of the capital budgeting process. And we do have, I believe it's Noah Rushmeyer. here with Dive Guys. If you have some more specific questions, I'm sure he'd be much more experienced in the process and could provide some more insight into this beyond what I've provided in here.
Very good. Appreciate all the research, Jesse, and all the work on that. Any questions for Jesse or for our potential presenter?
I think it's good information, but like Jesse kind of indicated, we're kind of past the budget season, so I mean, it's something we should dive into next year. And
No pun intended.
yeah, dive into next year, literally.
But
Jesse, is there ever any grants available for this type of item? I don't know if there could be or not, but if it's something we've explored or haven't explored.
I don't know if there would be. It'd be something that I would potentially reach out to either Soil and Water or the DNR. My initial thought is probably not, but it's something I could reach out to them and see.
I mean, that's kind of my initial thought because I think it's more cosmetic, but I think it's something that we have due diligence on.
So it looks like in 2024, the DNR made $400,000 available to local entities, lake associations, watershed districts, cities, and counties to receive state funding for control of just these specific curly leaf pondweed, milfoil, flowering rush, and starry stonewort. So if there's any of those in there,
yeah, then we might be cooking. I mean, we've got you here. I mean, is there any additional info you can kind of give us on like the scope and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess, first of all, thanks for your time. My main concerns, just looking at the area and the types of weeds you're dealing with, the two biggest things is one, off to that left side of the pier on the south side, you do have some cattails coming in. Those are a dangerous weed to see because they'll take off, they'll explode, and it's not just going to affect, visibility and how pretty the area looks. It's going to turn that whole landscape into bog, which then in the future, if you decided that was something that you wanted to take out, that's going to require tools as opposed to hand pulling, which would be easy right now. And then that would push your price up if it were a future thing you wanted to take care of. And that'll go as far as you let it. I mean, that will take over your shoreline. Secondly is the lily pads. Those also, they affect the soil. It's going to turn, it's going to go inside of the soil. The root system, they can get up to 20, 30 feet long. And what that does is, even if it's sand, it's going to turn that to muck. I mean, we've had jobs where we're dealing with 5 feet of muck and a foot of water. So that's something you want to watch out for. And those seeds, especially in a lake like that that's fed through the Mississippi, those currents, they can take the seeds, they're this big, and it can explode anywhere in the lake. So that's something to be cautious of. That's something to think about. I know you have that first area from the pier to the end of the beach. I think it'd be a disservice to not be doing everything to the left of that. I mean, you have a definitive weed line, and that's good. That's good for now. It's not going to stay that way. It's going to continue to go. It's going to cost more the more years you wait to get it done. And I love the idea of having that beach at Lum Park, just being someone who, as a community member, I lived 10 minutes away from it my whole life. That would have been awesome. I mean, that would have been super sweet. That would have changed the course of my summers as a kid. And so allowing these weeds to go, they're going to take over that beach. It's not going to be swimmable in 10 years. So that's just my concerns, not just being, an advocate for Dive Guys, but as a community member, I don't want to see that happen. I'm excited for the beach. I love the idea of it. For years, I've wanted that park to be something more. So I think I'm just here to offer some insight and maybe answer any questions you guys have, but that's my thought process. As of right now, I don't think I would even let my dog swim in that water. And the other risk that you run with that is when you get weeds that tightly compressed, and especially around that pier area, it becomes a breeding ground for algae, which breeds bacteria. And I mean, that's later in the season, kind of end of July, that you start to see that. If you go there now, it's a cake. I mean, it looks like you could walk on the stuff. And that can be super dangerous to swimmers, which is, I mean, what the beach is for. And those are just things that I noticed going down there. But I think it would be a disservice to that beach and to the community to not push it further, whether that's going through us or waterfront. That's just my personal opinion on that and from what I've seen. Yeah, any questions for me?
Yeah, any questions for the presenter? I mean, I appreciate all the info because, I mean, that's, you know, when you start thinking of like those plant systems and things like that, the aquatic side, like, I have no idea. But I mean, as a layman, you know, or a park goer, just over the years, how much nastier it's even been since the paper mill hasn't been cooking. It's still just been getting gross. So, I appreciate all the information. Anybody else questions for the presenter? Nope. Very good. Well, I appreciate your time, really do. I mean, it's awesome. It's really good information.
Absolutely.
And, you know, obviously we want this beach to look nice if we're going to overhaul the entire system here. So,
Yeah. Well, and I can imagine how much money is going into that. And it would be a shame to put all that money into that and have it be useless in a few years. And that's just me not speaking from a dive guy standpoint. That's me as a community member saying, like, from what I've seen, these specific plants that you're dealing with there, it's going to make the beach unusable at some point. And I think it's worth, you know, the board really, really thinking about it and diving into it potentially next year with what we got. Whether that's, like I said, through us or someone else, I would just like to see it done.
total fair point. Yeah.
That's all I got.
We're spending good money, well, grant money, I suppose, to make those adjustments to the beach. So, you know, cleaning that water up would be a very good service to the public. So, very good.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Absolutely.
Any other questions for Jesse or comments? Dave?
If you're trying to get that done in a couple of years, you may want to add that to your future budgets. Not for next year, but future budgets, because we know how the council is very stickler about adding items for the following year.
Certainly. Keep the conversations continuing, but everybody keep this in the back of their minds, because, I mean, that beach will be completed relatively soon.
Yeah, I would like to see if staff could see if there is any funding opportunities out there to get that done, and then that is something that we should look at for future costs, because I would like to see at some point Lum Park become kind of our park gem of the city. I think there's so much potential there that it could be the one, so let's make it there.
I was hoping O'Brien Park could be the gem of the system, but
Hidden gem.
yeah, the hidden gem, yeah, literally. Yeah, no, I think so too. I mean, whether it's through grants, I mean, maybe we can get some of our organizations that are utilizing Lum Park's aquatic area to kick in some money too. But yeah, definitely really want to put some momentum on this, just because we'll have a usable beach, but maybe less than usable water to go with it here in the next year. So again, information only on that one. So we'll move on to 8G, the information on Memorial Park softball utility costs. Jesse, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So request at the last meeting was to get some information on the softball fields. So included the trailing 12 months of costs for the softball fields. I had to put this together a little bit differently than other ones. So there's 3 different columns that kind of go to it. The first one is softball concessions and restrooms. This kind of encompasses obviously the concessions room, the restrooms that are over there, but this also has the softball lights. The field lights come out of here too, so that cost is in there. The softball water only is likely the irrigation that goes through there, and then the Memorial Park electric only. This is likely the scoreboard for Field 3 only. Now I'll also note that there is also some power pulled for the Mills Field scoreboard, but I'm sure it's a minute usage compared to what's used for Field 3. So I would attribute most of the usage here for Field 3 scoreboard. So roughly about $14,000 for the last 12 months.
Very good. Thank you, Jesse, for pulling any and all of this information. Questions for Jesse on this information? Dave?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're using this data for our discussions about the cost of running the programs, because that is a direct cost to the programs.
Absolutely. Very good. Any other questions, comments?
For all that.
I mean, technically, we are reimbursed, correct?
So we do factor in some cost of the field rental usage in the cost of the fees.
But he's asking, are we reimbursed through public utilities for that?
Correct. Our utility cost is reimbursed at the end, yeah.
Yeah, so reflection of the cost is more maintenance side of things, but we get a little rebate at the end of the year. Yeah, they are costs. Yep, they certainly are. Very good. Any other questions or comments on the utility costs for softball? Very good. We will move on to the new 8H, which is the approval of the Outdoor Play Lab special event application. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this event application came in after the packet went out. So Wonder Trek is looking to have an outdoor play lab over at Lyman P. White Park. It would be a Sunday, October 20th from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. I would say this is very similar to kind of the setup they had at the grand opening. So they use the kind of the green space there behind the restroom building. So they want to set up kind of that nature place scape with a couple canopies. So a little bit bigger than they used during the grand opening event, where they only had just the one canopy and some of the play area. So it's a little bit bigger than that, but kind of similar to that. Kind of a setup in area, but staff is recommending approval of the event application as presented.
Very good. Thank you, Jesse. Questions on the special event application? Yeah, this does look almost identical to their setup at the grand opening. Any questions, comments, or concerns on?
Okay, is there any other events going on that day, or they're just setting up, is it like fundraiser for them, or just like come hang at the park and play with our stuff, which is also great, but just curious.
Not as far as I know. I think this
Okay.
is one of their events that they schedule kind of throughout the area where they just have these play labs that they invite the public to come out and play when able.
Great.
Very good. I guess my other question is, can we promote this on our internal page as well after the... I'd like to see these events, if they're going to take place in our park, if we can coordinate with the organizer, just at least put out a little shout out, hey, this is what's going on in the park on this particular day or this quarter. Like, can we just get this on our Facebook?
So I know they have it shared on their Facebook, and so I think we could just as well potentially
Ship it
repost
over,
it.
do a share. Very good. Yeah, I'd like to see more
like
of
that
these
idea.
events. Yeah, more of these events on our Parks and Recreation page, whether, looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Andrew, ooh, snuck in. No, that was you, I think. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Outdoor Play Lab is on the books. And then moving on to the new 8I, the approved prizes for 2024 adult pickleball leagues. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is one that also came up after the packet was released. So we were notified that something similar to last year, that gift cards were presented as prizes for the Adult Pickleball League winners and runner-ups, so first and second place teams of the end of season tournaments in 2023. So they reached out to staff on the 2024 distribution. The instruction to Haley this year was to not make any changes, as she was still pretty new to the position in 2024. So really everything that we did was we recycled pretty much everything, fees, setup and all that stuff. So there was no additional clarifications on this stuff. So we definitely did not talk about gift card distribution by any means. But when this came up, so we had to do some more digging into this to find out what had occurred. And indeed, there was gift cards that were purchased and distributed to winners and runner-ups in 2023 for the pickleball leagues. So as there isn't further clarification in the 2024 leagues, although there isn't mention in the sign-up sheets, we are recommending that we continue that practice again in 2024. However, we also do recommend that we get some good clarification on how the park board would like to handle this moving forward. So I did give an additional breakdown of how our fees for the pickleball leagues generate revenue based on the number of teams that were there versus the expenses that we incurred through this year. So that's the $50 that or the $25 each for pickleballs, as well as the amount of plaques that we need to purchase for the first and second place teams. So based on that, we're roughly having an additional $1,275 for summer pickleball and $300 for fall pickleball, roughly. We do not have any costs associated with use of the facilities. Obviously, it's a pretty minor maintenance facility. It's not like we have to mow this facility by any means or anything like that. Obviously, there's utility costs, but beyond that, it's a pretty low maintenance facility. One thing we did have to do is replace a couple of the nets this year. That was not cheap. That was a $5,000 expense, or not quite $5,000, pretty close to $5,000 expense. Obviously, that's not within this dollar amount, but we do have some expense for maintenance on those courts. However, based on the practice from last year, staff is recommending to provide the gift cards similar to last year, not exceeding what we have generated in revenue, and then just getting clarification on how the park board would like to handle setting fees versus prizes for future years.
Thank you, Jesse. I think my initial question is, so last year our entire net revenue was paid out in gift cards as prize.
Not entirely.
Well, most of it. So I mean, in our example right now, we're talking about potentially $1,275 for the summer leagues being paid out in gift cards, all things equal. Because that's our net for summer, right?
If you give me just a moment here, I can pull some information up for you.
Yeah.
And Katie, did she get these donated, or did she maybe buy them herself? I don't know.
You know, we purchased them.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have the
was
record
real.
of all of this, so.
We roughly netted about $270 after the purchase.
Okay.
After everything.
After everything, and then we distributed $270 worth of gift cards.
No, this was after the purchase of the gift cards. After the purchase of the gift cards, the city probably netted about $270 of profit.
What do we do with that money?
It offsets the overall parks budget.
I mean, for me, yeah, we'll do it again. I mean, because I suppose we have an expectation with the people that played. I know the face, but I mean, let's be real. I mean, it's if you expected it, you're getting it. But what?
So here's my thought on this. We recently went over softball budgets, presented it to the softball players, everything. Part of the league is the rental fee of the fields. I think we need to, if we even think that we want to do this again this year, which is a whole nother topic, but we need to put the rental fees into the expenses like we do any other recreation sports. But that kind of takes it because it's using the rental rate. It would exceed the amount generated, so we wouldn't have made anything.
Do we have prizes for any other leagues?
Does softball get paid in gift cards as well?
No, those are plaques. Plaques only.
But we also give plaques to the pickleball folks.
Correct.
Yeah, so they get double.
I don't, And let's just step in if I can.
You may, yeah, certainly.
Giving gift cards is crazy to me. And unless they're being donated, that's crazy. I don't think there's an expectation as a pickleball player that you're getting gift cards. That's crazy.
Yeah, who reached out about, I mean, how did we find out about this?
One of the players that was in the tournament. And then we, again, verified this
Yeah,
through,
that it's-
through the purchases. And obviously, there were photos taken with those gift cards last year, too.
For the tournament, not for the,
For the end of season tournament. It wasn't every participant. So only the first and second place teams did.
do we know how much the gift cards were?
It was 610 for summer and 735 for fall total.
Oh, but it's first and second place. That's first and runner-up in the tournament were the ones that were
First
paid.
place teams and second place teams receive gift cards. Not every team.
Right.
Team though?
I'm sorry?
Oh, two, yeah. There's only two people on a team, sorry. I was like, oh my gosh.
Holy halibut. Okay. Thoughts on this?
Where will the money come from?
Well, the money
So, like,
comes from I assume the registration fees that everybody's paid is in part of the,
So then we don't
yeah,
make
so,
any money off.
yeah, we have a net of $1,275 from summer.
That doesn't account for any administration time or any maintenance.
Maintenance is the big thing.
Yeah.
That's, you
They
just
should be
said,
paying for themselves over time.
Holy moly. No,
I would be in favor of not
no.
doing gift cards.
I think plaques are great.
Plaques are great. Plus, part of this is when we're talking about, the softball and everything what the players want and the improvements they want to the field, we can't wrap up literally all of our net revenue and immolate it on gift cards to try to improve the experience. I mean, it's just going to end up costing folks more. Like if they want to get into a tournament that's paid, they can organize one. But the city shouldn't be distributing a cash or gift card, a cash equivalent prize for Dave.
No, this is something that would be on the front end. We would, if you wanted to do a sponsorship with someone and they're gifting gift cards, that's one thing. But for the city to go purchase gift cards this is an activity that we're allowing and we want people to participate in activities. But I have a hard time with that dollar amount being just gifted back. We're trying to allow participation in activity, but giving back all of the revenue that then should be paid for the maintenance, and we
we have
just
a
cut our
spon-
budget.
yeah,
We
if we have a
just
sponsored
we just
tournament-
cut our budget.
If we have a sponsored tournament, that we're hosting and officiating, sure, I fine. And if it's being donated or given to us by a sponsor, sure. But we can't be taking money out of our,
Do we need a motion?
I think we do, yeah.
Do you need a motion one way or the other?
Staff would like direction from the park board of how you'd like to handle this.
I make a motion that we do not provide gift cards to the pickleball league, and we ensure clarification in future years that we will not be providing any monetary or prizes outside of normal plaques.
Second?
Motion and a second discussion on the motion further.
I just want, Jesse.
Yes, Jesse, sorry.
Could I get clarification for future years? Do we want to look at fees to include? So the issue we run into is the maintenance side of it. We don't have a really good feel for, like I said, the pickleball courts are pretty minimal maintenance compared to like mowing a softball field, for instance. So allocating a certain amount to maintenance, how do we want to set the fees for future years? Do we want to include a certain nominal amount for maintenance or a certain dollar amount for rental? How would the park board like to see that done?
Motion or motion E?
I think it's a whole different topic than the motion, but I don't agree with rental fees being included in league fees personally.
Yep.
I agree with maintenance being included, but not rental fees.
Andrew.
I don't know if this ties into your motion. Could we start our discussion on fees maybe at next month's meeting? Because I know we've had some like fee waiver questions come up and now this. And I think historically we've done it like November, but I want a little more lead time in case we want to make changes.
and allow the public a little bit of time for input as well.
My intent was October to have this discussion.
Awesome. Okay, so let's see, as far as clarification is concerned, I think we'll just have that discussion in October then. Do we need to amend the motion? No. So, motion and a second on the motion to deny the payout of the net revenue to gift cards is what we got on the table. Any further discussion on that motion? Andrew?
To contrast the beginning of our meeting, we have somebody who's spending, I don't know, 20 hours of Halloween putting on a concert for free in the park, and we're charging them $75. And last year we spent $1,300 to buy gift cards for people. I'm glad we're stopping.
Yeah, like I said, I feel like, you know, when we're having ongoing discussions about new courts and things like that, like the money that we could be spending or putting inside of the fee structures and things like that for improvements on the fields, I mean, $1,300 is $1,300 already. We're talking about that sort of thing. Dave?
Yeah, if the nets are $5,000, what's the life expectancy on the net? 15 years?
Haven't we already had to replace them like twice
That's what
since
I'm
we
saying.
built it? I mean,
$1,300 every single year is eventually going to pay for the nets in order to play. So
This is a lot of dough we're talking about to
It's
just be
excessive
handed
amount of
out
money.
for a program that we don't do this in any other program that we host.
love people participating.
Yep, love the participation. Thrilled with outside sponsorship tournaments. If we want to go that route, love it. But in-house, we shouldn't be distributing cash equivalent for.
We got to vote on it.
Yep, so further discussion? Yes, no, hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. No gift cards. We're going to move on to the public forum. Time allocated for citizens to bring matters not on the agenda to the attention of the board. May impose time limits. We'll open that up at 5:56 if anyone from the public wants to speak on anything not on the agenda. Seeing nobody, we'll close the public forum at also 5:56 and move on to staff reports. Parks and Rec maintenance report. Mr. Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So some updates from the last meeting. So there was a discussion, I'll reference right back to it because I had this kind of sitting here. So the amount of water flow at the splash pad per button press, I guess. So thinking like any faucet, we could turn down the amount of water by restricting the flow. However, the features were likely designed for a certain flow rate through them. So it may cause some unintended issues. So like they may not function properly, or they may eventually clog or have some other maintenance issues. We haven't fully vetted that. But it's just like anything. You crank down the valve, it's going to use less water. So there's always that potential. It just may cause some other issues that we don't know. So that's just something that, talking with maintenance, that we could do that. We just know that those I'm going to call them toys, I guess. Those toys and sprayers are designed at a certain amount, and changing those flow rates may affect them differently. There was also a question about the counter on the splash pad. There isn't a visible counter per se that shows how many times it's been pressed or activated. There is a computer or a controller that we could potentially connect into that might provide us that usage. We haven't had time to look into how to get into that and what the process would be to connect into that. So there's not something that you can just look at a screen and say, oh yeah, it's been pressed 10,000 times or anything like that. But potentially that computer or controller would allow us to get that usage. And then we did have the gentleman that reached out regarding the private pickleball league, regarding that reduced rental fee from the last meeting. Per the park board action, they elected to decline at this time based on that reduced fee. Staff also had some additional funds left in the sign replacement budget for the 2024 year. The two signs that appeared to be the oldest were the JC's and the Bain Park signs. And we do have the new signs in our possession, and they're getting the frames built right now. This works actually really well for the JCs with the new improvements that we're doing right now. So it's actually going to let us better site that sign with the concrete pad and get the sign lined up with the new parking lot and the entrance once it's completed. However, Bain sign it's surrounded by those juniper bushes right now, mostly in the front. So staff would like some thoughts from the park board. If those juniper bushes should be removed so the sign can be placed on a concrete pad, and then just replace the area with turf grass, or should we repost the sign kind of right where it is? And I'm just kind of looking for some direction that way.
Paul thinks they're ugly.
Kind of random.
Yeah, I would, my vote would be to pull them.
Yeah, I'm not really one for taking away green things, but I'm not a fan of them.
I like the rock. That one random rock.
Kara, any thoughts on the shrubbery?
I mean,
Are you attached to it?
no.
Okay.
But is it like a memory thing for anyone, like that, those flowers, or, I mean, I'm sure not, but like, is there a reason that they're there?
I'm not aware of that, but
But
And not a memorial juniper bush?
is there one of those electric boxes, or is that a rock right there, you're saying?
That's a rock. I
Oh,
think.
it is, okay.
Yep. Yank 'em?
no opposition. Perfect. Thank
Very
you.
good. Are you attached to the juniper bushes?
I just said maybe they're there for gin production, I don't know.
Oh,
Maybe it's
yeah.
a remnant of our bootlegger days.
Very good. Yank 'em.
Okay. The Great Pumpkin Festival. We are planning on Saturday, October 12th in Memorial Park. With Haley's resignation, Administrator Broyles, as well as some of our Community Development Department staff, have been willing to assist with putting the event on. Most of the details are already completed, with some are yet to be finalized. The mayor was gracious enough to have run the event last year, short notice, and provide a pretty good guide of how things could go successfully this year. So between that and kind of the headway we already had made before Haley resigned, we're actually set up pretty well already. So it's just with the few weeks that we do have ahead of October 12th, we're actually in really good shape. So if there is any park board members that are willing to assist with the event, let me know, and I can get you in contact with the right folks that are organizing the event. Just let me know. The fall adult sports continue to move forward with the end of season tournaments beginning shortly. In regards to maintenance, we are moving out to what we would consider summer maintenance, like mowing and field maintenance, and we're moving into the fall activity stuff. So staff is working on assembling the Buster Pavilion and putting together some of the memorial benches that we have. What you're going to see is things like the splash pad and the Gregory Fountain getting shut down, and then we're going to start winterizing our facilities before things begin to freeze up, which the winterizing usually takes a few weeks to get done. When you think of all of the different parks and all the different water lines that we have and sprinkler systems, so it takes a while. We do have all the antifreeze and stuff, but it takes quite a ways to winterize everything. So it does take a few weeks by the time we're through everything. So we are going to get started moving in that process once we wrap up these last couple different projects. As for projects, the DeChantel Excavating, they have started grading JC's Park. You can really start to envision, I just walked it out this morning, you can really get the scale of the new pleasure rink as well as the soccer field. So they'll be getting work later this week in the Lum campground expansion as well. It's likely going to be a pretty busy couple months between all the different projects as they're trying to finish up before the end of the year. And then also High Tech continues to work in the Lum Park pavilions as they wrap up in the next probably a week or so on that work. With that, I will entertain any questions that you may have on the report.
Well, I just had a comment. I know that we had discussed the Great Pumpkin Festival moving from park to park annually. No, we did. All right.
Oh, I'm not saying we
No,
didn't discuss
I'm just saying we don't have to. I just wanted to make sure, that was,
My only remark
talking about it,
My only remark to that would be, as the individual that ran it last year, it worked splendidly, and we had very good feedback from parents,
Yeah.
specifically on the caged-in feel of the softball field,
Look,
allowing the little ones
yeah,
to run without fear of disappearing.
I think the architects of that particular fenced-in area were amazing. I think those people, maybe the mayor's medal for those folks.
I don't think people who designed softball fencing thought this is a great way to keep 4-year-olds from running off, but it is a unintended special effect of such things.
Yeah. worked out great, actually, I think. I mean, we well, actually kind of popped in. I don't know if you made it last year, but yeah, it worked out good at Memorial, actually, so believe it or not. So I think that was my only question on the Pumpkin Festival. Is I just wanted to make sure, if we're moving it around, we're moving it around, but otherwise not. And then, I mean, I know this is really tough for you to know now, but are we seeing the reason why MS1, we didn't have a lot of teams this season? Is there some causality with the summer league?
Are you talking about for fall?
Yeah. Or is it just, do we have issues, are we close to not having enough every year for MS1 teams? And that's probably a better question for a rec specialist, but, do we not have a MS1 league this season because of the pains that we may have had in the summer? Or are we just losing interest?
I know we had some teams signed up, but we didn't have enough to field a league.
Got it.
I did not instruct anybody to go and follow up on reasons why, so I couldn't tell you any answers why.
From what I've seen, our softball community is aging, and their kids are not as interested in it. So numbers have started to dwindle because people like me get hurt at softball.
Yeah. So I just, like I said, I want to make sure that, again, we're continuing the feedback and asking the questions here, at these meetings and making sure that we're getting as much feedback on these, because we only run a couple of them now, so we shouldn't be missing anything. So, nothing else, Jesse, though? Any other questions for Jesse? Kara?
I was curious about, remind me again how we winterize the kayaks, or the rent fund. Does it get locked up when we winterize the parks, or?
We don't take care of that at all. That's entirely by rent.fund. They handle the maintenance of that. So I think they pull it at the end of the season. Well, they don't pull the cage. I think they just pull the kayaks.
The equipment.
And when's the end of the season? Is it, first snow? I mean, because people maybe want to go on the lake and kayak when the fall colors and.
I'd have to relook. I think they let it go for quite a bit until it gets pretty chilly.
But still a sweet deal that they come and get it. So.
Oh, right. That is really great, but I'm just curious. Thanks.
Dave.
I just wanted to request again, I think I made this request last year, but when we winterize, it would be nice for us to look at potentially putting in porta potties or something, one in a park, because we do have that. Basically, most of October is when we're winterized, isn't it? Wasn't that what happened last year? I think we had about 3 weeks last year when we were winterized until it was cold, without any use of bathrooms in the park. So rental of a porta-john is pretty inexpensive.
Depends on the park. The parks with warming houses are obviously year round, so those restrooms stay open. It's the ones that don't have the warming houses. Those are the ones that we do winterize. Like Kiwanis Park, for instance. So that one we do not obviously maintain the full year round. It's tough to know exactly when part of the year that we'll get to winterizing it every year. It's pretty weather dependent and when staff is able to get to it.
Mm-hmm. I'd just like us to look at that as a potential option.
We've got a warming house in every neighborhood.
For a couple $100, you could put a bathroom.
Yeah.
We
can look into that, but. I just feel like we do have a park that's open to the public during the winter and in every neighborhood.
Just a second request from a lonely mayor.
Well, yeah, we're trying to cut budgets here, It can't be adding porta-johns everywhere.
Stop giving out gift cards and
Yeah, well, that will help the budget a lot. All right. Any other questions for staff? Andrew, sorry.
Just about the Buster Park complaint with the windscreen. Is that something we could look at putting some slats or something up on one side of the building? I definitely see their point. It kind of whips right off the river, but
that would be challenging for us to figure out that one. They're obviously steel posts. I'm not sure what we can fabricate anything to fasten to the steel posts, but he wasn't obviously designed to have any kind of a wall. So I don't know how that would affect it. adding an additional wind load to it. I know that the previous wind screen was not in good condition.
I do remember that. So it was, yeah, okay. Cool. Just curious. Thanks.
Very good. Any other questions for staff? We'll move on to board member reports. We'll start with JD.
I don't have anything.
Nada. Paul? I think for me, the main concern, I think, between meetings was again, the vehicles in the park for Pride in the Park. I just want to make sure that we were able to resolve that and get a letter sent out to them, kind of explaining our position on vehicles in the park. And I guess I'm trying to understand this. Did we approve an event application for Pride in the Park? I thought we had, but we didn't.
I thought we had one at Kiwanis that we approved.
That was like a run. I thought we did Pride like months ago.
I thought we had done an application for that, but
We did not approve an event application, specifically an event application. So I did reach out to the event organizer they filled out a reservation, a park reservation, a facility reservation. So I think that's where some of the confusion comes in. So this confusion actually came up with Wonder Trek for this event application that came up in here, is they thought that they had put in the application. So I clarified, for a public event, this is something that beyond just a reservation application that we would like to see come into us as one, so the park board is aware of a public event that is going in our parks, but two, it gives us an opportunity for especially our maintenance to make sure that we are prepared to facilitate for a large or potentially a large crowd of folks that are going to be out there, so we don't have issues like toilet paper running out an hour into a 5-hour event, or if there's not enough garbage cans, being able to facilitate a large event. So having these event applications is important to us. So I did reach out to the event organizer, one in indicating that we should be seeing those event applications come in, but also that Gregory Park has a pretty strict policy of no vehicles in the park.
Yeah, and I think the only reason I really bring up the application was strictly because I think we're pretty clear on our vehicle policy on the application. So I was like, well, if they didn't fill out an event application and they just reserve the park, then maybe we're not saying in the park rental application that, we are. Okay. So I just wanted to make sure, I guess, for my own sanity that, if there was a benefit of the doubt here that, they were driving on there without, being 100% sure. But also, again, first of all, we want to have that just for staff purposes, but we also want to be able to promote stuff inside of our park systems and things like that too. So, again, encouraging the public to just let us know you got something going on. We just want to be able to help you guys facilitate regardless of what you're up to. Dave?
Yeah, I would say that goes to your statement earlier about promoting things that are going on in the park as well. If we're more aware of that's happening, the bigger issue with not pulling the permit is it's not even legal to sell things in the park. So, if you're not pulling a permit, you can't have any type of sales in the
Goods
park
or
as well.
sundries,
So,
yeah.
So it's disconcerting that was the case, but we'll get it clarified and we'll make sure that that's figured out in the future. But we should be encouraging people. There are bigger concerns. There's policing issues. There's insurance issues. There's that type of stuff that all needs to be addressed, and that's all in the application.
Yep. So very much appreciate you reaching out and clarifying, not only for them, but for myself as well. So that is all I have, though. Andrew?
Two quick things. To your point, there were vehicles parked at the Gregory Park Pavilion Wednesday of last week, including one blocking the sidewalk, which was a choice. So, yeah, still a challenge, but I feel like been better since the boulders and things have gone in. Second is, had some family stuff come up, couldn't make it to the Ski Loon Rice Lake meeting on Sunday, but generally positive report from Wayne at the Rice Lake Association. I thought this year went really well, so I think 180 degrees from last year, so
sure.
That's really exciting to hear.
It's kind of been our dialogue for 2024, right? Open communication, whether it's between us and the organizations or groups or, whatever. Just trying to be more open. Jesse?
Andrew, I was going to follow up with you directly, but just as well for the entire board, I did follow up on that incident regarding the vehicle. I didn't have a reservation for that afternoon, at the park. So my guess is that was just somebody showing up and having their event at the park.
Very good. Kara, anything? No, nothing. Dave, would you like to add any?
I too will once again be at the Great Pumpkin Festival. I've been asked to give my beautiful vocal skills for said races that will be happening. So you can come by and enjoy the smooth sounds of one Mare Badeau as you bounce on a rubber donkey. So,
But not a giant pumpkin.
no giant pumpkin as
No
of now.
giant pumpkin.
We're looking for
Still looking out for it. Yeah, so very good.
Move to adjourn.
All right, we've got a motion to adjourn. Second. Oh my goodness gracious me. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.